My first real dose of the special education world was back about 2006. I went to a Winterfest program at the school where my wife was teaching at the time. Now, I didn't know much about special education or what all went into being a teacher. I was just being a supportive husband. But I remember meeting some of the kids at that school the particular night, and the experience was something that stuck with me. Now, the school she taught in back then was specifically for children who had gotten kicked out of mainstream schools, primarily for behavior. So, as you can imagine, it was rather chaotic. The school itself was in an old church building that had classrooms with each door leading to the outside. It's what you would envision a seedy motel being like. The area of the school was exactly like you'd expect when watching a horror movie, with the characters camped out, afraid for their lives, and at any moment, a knife-wielding psychopath could come busting through the door and butcher them to death. It wasn't fun. The paint on the outside of the building was faded. Bad. The inside of each room had been carefully decorated in an attempt to turn a big turd into a piece of gleaming gold. There were abandoned houses nearby and a corner gas station that seemed to look like it could be the drug dealing mecca of the West. A homeless gentleman had taken up residency out back behind the shed and often used the playground as a bathroom. The kids at the school seemed to come from all walks of life. Some had fancy clothes and expensive shoes. Some kids had big old stains on their shirts and holes in their pants. Some kids swore like old drunken sailors. Some said nothing at all. Some kids ran around and played with one another. Some stayed as far away as humanly possible from any sort of contact at all. My point is, in telling you this, there was nothing similar about these children, other than they attended the school designed to help specifically with their behaviors. What really drew my attention, though, were the parents. A lot weren't there, but the ones who were seemed to all have something in common. Visible, complete, absolute, ungodly, almost inhumane stress. The look on their faces was daunting, uncomfortable, and bleak. The burnout they felt was obvious as they peered through hollow eyes at a seemingly never-ending, hopeless situation. I realized at that moment this is why Susie entered into this field. A room filled with kids whose self-confidence was shot and parents stressed out, feeling helpless and alone. I never forgot that feeling, that thought, those parents, those kids. But I wasn't an educator. I had chosen a different path, a different career. I respected my wife even more from that moment forward. I ended up going to quite a few similar events at my wife's school during those years. And during all of them, I observed the same things. When the time came for us to have our first child, we made the decision that my wife would be the best care provider that we could have for our little girl. She left her career and dedicated herself to our baby. It wasn't long before parents of her former students began messaging her, texting her, even more lost, even more confused, more alone. They were searching for help. The school wasn't providing enough help, they would say. Do you know anyone that can provide more? After endless searches online and unanswered calls, Susie decided to try helping by utilizing some online tools. She started in her spare time, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, whenever our daughter was sleeping or content, which wasn't very often in those early days. But the results were astonishing. In just a couple 30-minute sessions per week, every child saw massive improvements in the areas that they covered. You see, the kids didn't view what Susie was doing as schoolwork at all. They loved technology and grew up with it, but were never accustomed to learning using it They participated, they interacted, their self-confidence increased because they actually understood the material. The best part? Their parents finally saw a light at the end of the tunnel. Their frustration began to lift, stress began to diminish, and hope took its place. Now fast forward a couple years and another kid later, the company that I was working for downsized, and that downsizing included me. So there we were, a newborn baby and a toddler in hand, no income, but plenty of bills. Job offers came rolling in from people that I'd met in the industries that I was a part of, but I didn't entertain any of those. One night, my wife was concerned and looked right at me, and she simply said, "What is it that you're looking for?" Now, I didn't have to think very long when I realized what it was. A smile grew on my face. My heart began pounding, and for the first time in forever, I felt absolutely certain. I remembered all the children and parents I had met during the school programs, the pain in their faces, the drowning feeling they all shared. I blurted out, "To make an impact. I want to make an impact." I realized in that moment, amid all the chaos, uncertainty, frustration, depression, anxiety, and emptiness, what it was that I had been lacking all those years. And more importantly, for the first time in my life, I felt like there was a choice. Excitedly, I looked into my wife's eyes and told her I have longed to help parents feel whole again, to help struggling children find their path in life, and help to reinstill the confidence they had long since lost. But I can't possibly tutor any more children, not with watching our kids and everything else we have going on, was what she replied. I reassured her that we would figure it out. Whatever it took, whatever we had to do, we needed to spearhead a movement to help the parents and children of the special education world. I told her that with her expertise and my technical skills, we can make a difference. We can bring about positive change. We can do this. So after a long discussion that lasted into the wee hours of the morning, she reluctantly agreed, and SpecialEdResource.com was officially born. Now, as we lay our heads down to go to bed, I couldn't sleep. Truth be told, I was scared. I was terrified, but I was sure. I didn't know how we would accomplish this monumental task. I only knew why we had to make this happen. To bring peace, hope, and a freaking smile to the faces of parents. To finally allow children to gain their self-confidence back. The beginning was tough, really tough. My role in the early years was to have conversations with parents. Then Susie would do a session or two, and a plan would be developed to help their child reach the excellence in their goals and whatnot. At least that was the idea. The problem was that parent after parent didn't think online tutoring would work. They were so reluctant that they wouldn't even give it a chance. No matter what I said, no matter what I did, they simply wouldn't budge. They didn't grow up using technology. They couldn't quite grasp how children could possibly learn while chatting with someone on a computer. A couple of months went by and frustration grew. The light at the end of the tunnel was dimmer and dimmer, and yet we kept going. We knew there were parents and children out there that needed this. "I've tried everything," parents would say. I guess this just isn't going to be. Finally, more than 4 months into our movement, we got a yes. "Yes," she said, "I would try anything to help my son." I couldn't believe it. I literally fell on the floor and cried. And in that moment, I knew we were about to actually make magic happen. The initial sessions went extremely well, and Mom was pleased with the results she saw in such a short time. I could hear relief over the phone when Mom signed on for 2 sessions a week. A weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Hope was in view, and her son's self-confidence returned. We started bringing on and helping more and more children. Parents were ecstatic. Confidence returned. Hope was there. It was glorious. We received positive feedback from all the parents. "You've made my child want to learn again," one father wrote. Who knew learning could actually be enjoyed? A proud mother of 3 children with special needs commented on our Facebook. "We haven't fought in over a week. I can't remember the last time this happened," a single mom proclaimed teary-eyed when I called about her teenager. Soon, Susie's schedule was full, and she couldn't possibly fit any more children into her jam-packed calendar. We had to find more special education experts. So we posted some ads and began the daunting task of locating exceptional educators who had the same purpose, mission, goals, personality, and drive that Susie had. It wasn't easy. We searched, we interviewed candidate after candidate, but could not find any that fit into our movement. After endless hours of searching and weeks of sleepless nights, Susie and I asked each other, "Are we expecting too much? Is there anyone out there that even comes close to what we believe is needed?" So, faced with a waiting list of parents needing help, I looked deep into Susie's eyes and told her we should just hire somebody and see how it goes. Now, in my mind, so long as the person was a teacher, they could help. At least that'd be better than nothing. But Susie did not agree with this at all. Being an educator, she knew there were a lot of certified teachers out there who did not have the same mindset that our movement demanded. They were more interested in money than making an impact on the lives of the children that were coming to us. So after a rather heated discussion, I ended up hiring someone who on paper looked great. Her personality seemed to be upbeat, but she didn't check all the boxes. So after some training and shadowing with Susie, she officially started with her first child. After the first 2 sessions, I began trying to get a hold of the parent to go over a plan for continuing. That's the way the process had worked. And normally, the parent would eagerly answer the phone and be excited about the weight that had been lifted off of them. They'd want more sessions than our schedule really could handle, and pure joy would resonate through the conversation. But this was different. The parent didn't answer, never called back, never responded to emails I sent, just vanished. That is until a week later when I received a single-line email in reply that simply read, "This isn't going to work for us. Thank you for trying." Wait, what? This parent and their child were perfect for this program. Loved technology, loved online reading programs, and Mom was so excited, so grateful to have found a community of folks who actually cared. My heart sank. A knot crept up in my throat and I literally began shaking. How could this have possibly happened, I thought. I tried several more times to reach that parent, if nothing more, to simply apologize for failing her and her son. I realized that Susie was right. She knew all along what it takes to make a meaningful, lasting impact on children's lives and how you can't cut corners to accomplish that. We were back in alignment and clear about what it will take for our movement to move forward. We will not sacrifice parents' happiness and hope, nor will we sacrifice the opportunity children have to regain their self-confidence with a "just see how it goes." The next morning, I notified the list of parents we had waiting to start that we were working on finding a spot in the calendar. We offered some resources to them and some guidance to alleviate some of their stress in the meantime, but promised to get a solution soon. So we went back to work, and finally, a short while later, we found our very first special education team member. She fit all the criteria. She was truly the best. Diana started delivering the same incredible results to parents and children with special needs that Susie had done. We literally found Susie's Doppelganger. More importantly, we now had a structure of how to locate more incredible special education experts, never again compromising our movement with people who didn't match our mission. We've used this structure over and over and over again to build a first-class expert special education team with the finest educators from coast to coast. We've helped hundreds of children and their parents see the light of hope again. We've helped adults all the way up to 65 years old find their self-confidence. A community of thousands of people have gathered around this movement, and positive results are happening in all corners of the country. This journey transformed me in ways I can never describe. The fire inside rages. The passion to ensure that no child, no parent is left alone pushes us every day. And furthermore, I can relate to the struggles now, the stress, the frustration that parents face. Our incredible son, Alex, was diagnosed with both muscular dystrophy and autism. And because of this diagnosis, I've witnessed firsthand the roadblocks, the red tape, the barriers that exist in our antiquated school system. These realities push me even harder to bring about meaningful, positive change. You are not alone. We are in this together. And as a community, a group, and a family, we can win this war. Thank you.